Hello friends, welcome back once again to the Cantor's Corner. This week we have a double Parsha, Matot Ma'asei. In this week's double Parsha, what I find most interesting is not only some of the content that we find, but also, of course me being me, how we chant some of what we see in the Torah this week. Now in the second Parsha, Ma'asei, of the two of them, we get a chronicle of where the Israelites journeyed from place to place. When we are reading most of this, it sounds fairly ordinary. I'll show you some of what I'm talking about. Vayis'u mimara, and they went from Mara. Vayavo'u Elima, and they went towards Elim. Uv Elim, and in Elim, Shetem Esrei Anot Ma'im, there were 12 water wells. V'shiv'im Temarim Vayachanu Sham, and there were also 70 date palm trees, and they rested there. That sounds fairly ordinary in terms of the melodies that we use when chanting this stuff. But here's where things get interesting. Vayis'u me'elim, vayachanu al yam suf, vayis'u miyam suf, vayachanu b'midbar sin. And they went from Elim to the Sea of Reeds where they rested. And then they went from the Sea of Reeds and they rested in the Sinai wilderness. Now, what's curious about this is the melody that was just used. And those of us that have gone to a number of services and heard a number of Torah readings will recognize some of these melodies. A number of weeks ago, we heard the same melodies used in Exodus chapter 15. Ashira ladonai ki ga'o ga'a, sus v'rochevo rama vayam. This is the beginning of the Song of the Sea that the Israelites sang after they had just crossed the Sea of Reeds. Now we hear that in other places too, throughout the Jewish year. For example, on Simchat Torah, when we are reading Torah together and are finishing each one of the time periods of creation, both the congregation and the person chanting will use that melody when articulating each time period. Vayhi erev vayivoker yom echad. There is evening and there is morning, the first time period. Now what's even more interesting, Parshat Matot Ma'asei is the ending of the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers. And what do we sing whenever we finish a book of the Torah? Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Let us be strengthened, continue to be strengthened. We use this exact same melody when singing that segment. So what does this all mean? Why do we have the same melody being used in these very different situations? The way I see it is that this is a melody of redemption. This is a melody that tells us and reminds us of what I see as the possibility of improving, of becoming better people. That as the Israelites were journeying, because their journey went this way and that all over the place, it was not in a straight line. And sometimes they went back earlier than where they started. They sometimes took some steps backwards as they made their way forwards. But in the end, they made their way towards redemption to the promised land. I see us as people, as a community, and as a society on a similar journey. We are making our way, ideally, forward. We have seen great improvements in civil rights, the rights of for example, African American communities, also for women. and more recently for members of the LGBTQIA community. But we also know that sometimes we're taking some steps backwards. We're seeing people that are still adamantly opposing some of the basic tenets of science, such as evolution, or even the idea that the earth is round. Or, as I'm sure you've been hearing more recently, the ever mounting evidence of climate change. So, what are we to do? The reason I think why the journey that the Israelites took worked is because they had to continually put one foot in front of the other. If we do not allow ourselves the opportunity to continue placing one foot in front of the other, to continue advocating for what is right, not just for us, but for all peoples everywhere, then we will not make it to that promised land. So I encourage you, continue to talk about these issues with your friends and with your family. If these issues are made taboo, how can we deal with them in the first place? Continue to talk with your local representatives, talk with your state representatives, talk with your federal representatives. Make your voice heard. Because in order for this journey to really work, all of us need to be marching together.